When a relationship with a narcissist finally ends and a sudden heavy silence takes over, most people naturally assume it's really finished. You notice the cold shoulder, the complete lack of contact, or maybe even quick glimpses of them seemingly living their best life, and you convince yourself that they've fully moved on. But you really need to understand that this assumption is a dangerous psychological trap. In truth, a narcissist rarely lets go emotionally when they lose control over your life, while a healthy person deals with a breakup by accepting the finality of the ending and slowly detaching. A narcissist works on a completely different psychological wavelength. They stay deeply and intensely attached long after the physical relationship has officially ended. This lingering attachment has absolutely nothing to do with real love, romance, or genuine human connection. Instead, it's a bitter psychological grip caused by the harsh reality that they were entirely dependent on the attention, admiration, and emotional reactions you used to feed them every single day. What keeps them constantly hooked to your memory is the sudden, jarring loss of power, validation, and emotional access. To a narcissist, you were never an equal partner or a separate human being with your own thoughts, feelings, and basic rights. You were a possession. You were an extension of their own ego, a specialized tool built to mirror their supposed greatness and soak up all their toxic emotional baggage. When you finally decide to walk away, build an unshakable wall of silence, or stop reacting to their endless games, you aren't just ending a relationship. You are actively tearing away their daily psychological oxygen. This sudden removal creates an immediate, agonizing wound to their fragile self-esteem that they are completely unequipped to handle. Their inflated ego simply cannot process the harsh reality of being rejected, abandoned, or left behind. Their mind twists the entire situation to protect their delusion. They cannot tolerate the terrifying thought that you have successfully reclaimed your personal power. So that hidden shame and deep humiliation quickly turns into a dark, bitter fixation. The ultimate irony of this dynamic is that your complete emotional independence is exactly the fuel that intensifies their hidden obsession. When you stop crying over them, stop trying to explain yourself, and stop fighting back, you deny them the one thing they desperately need to feel superior. The calmer, steadier, and genuinely happier you become in your new chapter, the more completely powerless they feel in theirs. They look at your peaceful life and see their own ultimate failure to dominate you, and that unsettling realization drives them absolutely mad inside. This deep-seated panic over losing control is exactly what gives birth to the extended phase of stealth surveillance. One of the clearest and most undeniable signs that a narcissist is still deeply obsessed with you is their constant, desperate need to monitor your life from a safe distance. Publicly, they will put on a massive, rehearsed performance. They will loudly claim to anyone who will listen that they don't care about you at all. They will act completely cold and indifferent if you happen to cross paths, or they'll brag endlessly to mutual friends about how they've moved on to bigger and better things. But it's all just an elaborate act, a flimsy smokescreen specifically built to save face. Beneath that arrogant exterior, their actual daily behavior reveals a completely different reality. They are driven by an exhausting, frantic compulsion to track a life and a reality they no longer have the power to control. This detailed tracking doesn't happen out in the open, where they can easily be caught or held accountable. It happens in quiet, deeply calculated, and hidden ways. They become invisible ghosts haunting your entire digital footprint. They're the ones sitting silently at their screens, refreshing your public profiles and viewing your social media stories within minutes of you posting them. When direct viewing starts to feel far too risky for their pride, they instantly change tactics. They will strategically hunt for fresh information by casually questioning mutual acquaintances, dropping your name into ordinary conversations to see what useful detail slips out, or systematically building fake accounts just to watch your daily moves without leaving a trace. You might even start noticing strange, repeating patterns, like them suddenly showing up at your favorite local coffee shops, matching your specific gym hours, or overlapping with your routine, framing every single encounter as a total coincidence. Or maybe they'll try to interact indirectly by dropping a random like on an old photo you posted 3 years ago before quickly unliking it a moment later. You must realize that these actions are never random mistakes, harmless technical glitches, or moments of innocent nostalgia. They are highly deliberate psychological probes. The narcissist is throwing subtle hooks straight into your environment to test the waters, desperately trying to measure whether they still occupy valuable real estate inside your mind. They want to see if their ghost can still make you feel anxious, angry, curious, or deeply uncomfortable. The most important thing to remember is that this tracking behavior works on an inverse scale. The more peaceful, silent, and genuinely detached you remain, the more restless, frustrated, and aggressive their stealth monitoring becomes. Your absolute refusal to feed their ego with a direct reaction forces them into an escalating state of hyperfixation, where they will do just about anything to find proof that you haven't forgotten them. Just when you finally begin to breathe a true sigh of relief, find your solid footing, and genuinely start to heal your spirit, the unexpected happens. Out of nowhere, the narcissist will suddenly reappear in your life. It might arrive as a casual text message out of the blue, a fabricated emergency that supposedly requires your immediate attention, or a massive, sweeping apology that feels surprisingly profound on the surface. This highly calculated behavior is known in psychological terms as hoovering, a notorious manipulation tactic named after the vacuum cleaner, because it's specifically engineered to suck you right back into the toxic chaos you worked so hard to escape. You need to understand that the exact timing of their sudden return is never a coincidence. Narcissists possess an almost unexplainable radar for sensing when their former victims are finally slipping completely out of their reach and building a meaningful life without them. The very second your personal energy shifts from longing and heartbreak to true independence and lasting peace, they feel the immediate drop in their personal control. They can literally sense that they're losing their psychological influence over your mind, and it causes them to panic internally. To break your silence, they will carefully tailor their incoming messages to target your deepest emotional vulnerabilities. Their text might sound incredibly nostalgic, deeply remorseful, or intensely romantic, wrapping you in the exact words, promises, and validation they stubbornly denied you throughout the entire relationship. It's incredibly easy to fall for this trap, but you must not be fooled by the show. The ultimate goal of any hoovering attempt is never genuine reconciliation or healthy personal change. It's pure, selfish reassurance. The narcissist doesn't want you back because they love you or miss who you are. They simply want absolute proof that they still hold the power to pull your emotional strings at a moment's notice. They want to see if they can still trigger an immediate emotional reaction out of you. And they truly don't care if that reaction is love, extreme anger, heavy tears, or total confusion. To their warped mindset, any response at all is counted as a major victory because it confirms that they still occupy prime real estate inside your head. When you stop chasing them, go completely silent and focus entirely on your own growth. Their internal insecurity spikes to an intolerable level. Hoovering becomes their final desperate gamble to smash through your established boundaries, sabotage your personal progress, and regain the total emotional access they crave above all else. When a narcissist finally understands that their sly hoovering attempts have completely fallen apart and they can no longer pull your strings directly, they will immediately shift to a brutal new approach focused on controlling how everyone else views you. This is the precise moment they kick off a vicious, carefully orchestrated smear campaign. While this destructive behavior may feel like raw, unfiltered hatred, you need to see it for what it actually is, a clear and unmistakable sign that they remain completely fixated on you. They will bend the truth of what really happened, play the perfect victim, and spread outright lies to your shared friends, family members, or coworkers. They do this because if they can't push you into reacting to them directly, they will try to damage your reputation to cut you off from others and provoke a response some other way. They want word of what they're saying to reach you so you feel forced to break your silence, defend your name, and confront them head on. Every piece of gossip they spread, every made-up story they build, and every attempt to turn people against you is really a quiet admission of their total powerlessness. Someone who has genuinely moved forward with their life doesn't burn their precious time, energy, and effort trying to wreck yours. They only fixate on tearing down your image when your reality threatens the fake narrative they've constructed about themselves. Your quiet strength, your ongoing absence, and your firm refusal to sink to their level of chaos is the strongest shield against this storm. When you refuse to take the bait, their own lies eventually swallow them whole, revealing their true colors to anyone watching closely. In the end, the sudden quiet after a relationship with a narcissist doesn't mean you failed, and it isn't proof that they came out on top. It's actually the start of your freedom. Their constant watching, their sudden hoovering attempts, and their desperate smear campaigns are all frantic reactions to the undeniable fact that you have finally slipped free of their grip. Stay firm on your boundaries, keep your silence intact, and keep walking toward your peace. The power was always yours to reclaim, and by staying detached, you make sure they can never rip it away from you again. When a relationship with a narcissist finally comes to an end and a sudden heavy quiet takes over, most people naturally assume it's truly finished. You notice the cold shoulder, the complete absence of contact, or maybe even brief glimpses of them appearing to live their best life, and you convince yourself they've fully moved on. But you really need to grasp that this assumption is a dangerous mental trap. In truth, a narcissist rarely lets go on an emotional level when they lose their grip on your life. While a healthy person works through a breakup by accepting that it's truly over and slowly detaching, a narcissist runs on a completely different psychological wavelength. They stay deeply and intensely attached long after the actual relationship has officially ended. This ongoing attachment has nothing at all to do with real love, romance, or genuine human connection. Instead, it's a bitter psychological grip caused by the harsh reality that they depended entirely on the attention, admiration, and emotional reactions you used to give them every single day. What keeps them constantly hooked on your memory is the sudden, jarring loss of power, validation, and emotional access. To a narcissist, you were never a true equal or a separate person with your own thoughts, feelings, and basic rights. You were a possession. You were an extension of their own ego, a specialized tool built to reflect their imagined greatness and soak up all their toxic emotional baggage. When you finally choose to walk away, build an unbreakable wall of silence, or stop responding to their endless games, you aren't just ending a relationship. You are actively tearing away their daily psychological oxygen. This abrupt loss creates an immediate, agonizing wound to their fragile self-esteem that they are completely unprepared to handle. Their inflated ego simply cannot digest the harsh truth of being rejected, abandoned, or left behind. Their mind twists the whole situation to protect their delusion. They cannot bear the terrifying thought that you have successfully taken back your personal power, so that buried shame and deep humiliation quickly turns into a dark, bitter fixation. The ultimate irony in all this is that your complete emotional independence is exactly what fuels their hidden obsession even further. When you stop crying over them, stop trying to explain yourself, and stop fighting back, you take away the one thing they desperately need to feel superior: The calmer, steadier, and genuinely happier you become in your new chapter, the more utterly powerless they feel in theirs. They look at your peaceful life and see their own complete failure to control you, and that unsettling realization drives them absolutely mad on the inside. This deep-rooted panic over losing control is exactly what gives rise to the extended phase of quiet surveillance. One of the clearest and most telling signs that a narcissist is still deeply obsessed with you is their constant, desperate urge to watch your life from a safe distance. In public, they'll put on a big, rehearsed show. They'll loudly announce to anyone who will listen that they couldn't care less about you. They'll act completely cold and detached if you happen to run into each other, or they'll boast endlessly to mutual friends about how they've moved on to bigger and better things. But it's all just an elaborate performance, a thin smokescreen built purely to save face. Underneath that arrogant front, their actual day-to-day behavior tells a completely different story. They're driven by an exhausting, frantic need to track a life and a reality they no longer have any power over. This close tracking doesn't happen out in the open where they could easily be caught or held responsible. It happens quietly, in carefully calculated and hidden ways. They turn into invisible ghosts, haunting your entire online presence. They're the ones sitting silently behind their screens, refreshing your public profiles and watching your social media stories within minutes of you posting them. When watching directly starts to feel too risky for their ego, they quickly switch tactics. They'll actively dig for fresh details by casually questioning mutual acquaintances, slipping your name into everyday conversations to see what useful information comes out, or setting up fake accounts just to watch your daily life without leaving a trace. You might even start noticing strange, repeating patterns, like them suddenly turning up at your favorite local coffee shops, matching your gym schedule, or overlapping with your routine, framing every single run-in as pure coincidence. Or maybe they'll try to reach out indirectly by dropping a random like on an old photo you posted 3 years ago, then quickly unliking it moments later.